Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with Chabad House of Delmar, and we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Samuels. I just hear you, Sam Fein. Can I just call you Sam?
Sam or Shmuel.
All right, very good. Well, you're a good Jewish person we have. He's actually an Albany County Legislator, and that's exactly what we wanted to talk about. Of course, you represent all people, no matter who they are, race, religion, or creed, of course. On the other hand, you have a Jewish heart, I know, and we wanted to talk about, anyway, you have been on the show before, and want to know what's new. There's always something new happening in Albany County, and then we'll get into specifically things that are allotted for the Jewish community. So what's new in the Albany County Legislator?
So some of the stuff that I've been pushing for recently, everyone knows, I'm sure, that cannabis was legalized by the state.
Right.
But what that means, and whether you like it, whether it was legalized or not, what that means is that local governments get sales tax revenue. So Albany County gets 1% sales tax revenue, and whatever municipality that sale is in gets 3%. I want to make sure that sales tax revenue the county gets goes to the communities that were most negatively impacted by the war on drugs, by these policies that criminalize cannabis.
Very good. Are you talking about inside the city of Albany itself?
Well,
I mean, I am a little bit naive. Maybe I should, because I said, well, it's the inner city. And then people say, no, Rabbi, it's everywhere. It's pervasive everywhere. All the drugs that are going on, which, again, maybe I don't agree with it, but obviously I go along with whatever the legal issues are. But maybe I'm a little bit naive thinking that it's only the inner city.
The legal cannabis stores, I mean, they're everywhere. I think they're throughout the county, outside the city of Albany as well. Now, there is a problem, too, with illegal stores that are opening up. They're not paying taxes. They're not regulated. And there's a proliferation of those. The state budget had some provisions in there that makes it easier for them to crack down and close them, because this is becoming a big problem. It's like, we allow liquor stores, but you can't just open up a store and sell liquor without a license. You have to have certain rules and regulations around these things.
Well, it's even worse. What I read about is just that the illegal ones throw other things like fentanyl. They put really bad drugs into the marijuana, and obviously that's terrible for people to get hooked really on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has to be regulated for that sense. Because, the people that are, doing things illegally just really don't care about the health of people.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's one of the arguments in favor of legalization, was that it could be regulated and taxed. But as I was saying, I want the funding the county gets, the county's portion of the sales tax, to go in a dedicated fund, and to really get some community input to determine where that money should go. So this could go towards.
Keep on. That's what I was going to ask. Where would it specifically you have in mind?
So there's ideally we get some community input and really see where the need is and what would reverse some of the impacts over the years of drug criminalization. But things like could be youth programs. It could be entrepreneurship opportunities for people living in those communities to improve economic opportunity there. It could be housing related. Homelessness is a large issue. So I think there's a lot of options, but the state law was written around this idea of equity, that certain groups, particularly people of color, were impacted negatively by the war on drugs, and so this legalization effort would most benefit them. And so, I think it's important for us at the county level to mirror that, make sure that
the funds go into the right section. Again, like they always say, the government gets money and then they allot it to what they want. But if you dedicate it, like the lottery should go to the schools. That kind of idea. You say the homelessness is terrible around the country. Do you know if it's terrible in Albany? I mean, I just see a few people in the street. But is that a major issue? They bring it up?
Yeah, I definitely see in downtown Albany especially that it's getting worse. And I think we were talking about drug addiction and fentanyl. There's a lot of drug addiction, mental health issues. The cost of housing has gone up so much, so that's a major factor. People just can't afford the rent. So, we have created actually in Albany County the county legislature a housing task force, and we're meeting and we're discussing some of the solutions that we can come up with to address the lack of affordable housing and homelessness in a comprehensive way. And one of the first things we're doing is something I propose, the EPIC program, to provide legal counsel to people facing eviction. And I'll add our rework program is going to provide some assistance too, legal assistance to small landlords, owner-occupied small landlords as well.
Yeah, I know my wife's an MSW social worker. Well, of course, being a rabbi, so I'm half a social worker myself. You know, people have problems, they come to the clergy, and I'm included in that, but she really, full-time, sees the different cases. And, you know, people have mental health problems, and she says if it wouldn't be for intervening, they'd be in the street also. You know, it takes time to find out what's wrong, where do you want to go, where do you want to live. And again, like I say, it needs resources, so it's good that there's more funds going to the resources.
Yeah.
Now, again, talking about resources, and of course, this is the Jewish view, so we wanted to talk about specifically the Jewish funds that are allotted. So you could talk about it, and about how the Albany County is helping out the Jewish community.
Yes, I'd love to. So Albany County got significant amount of money, millions of dollars in ARPA funding, the American Rescue Plan Act, as all local governments did, and we've been giving out that money.
What was it a tribute to? I mean, why did they give it out? Just to help out the different needs of the community? That's what it's...
So this was passed a few years ago around COVID, when COVID hit,
It's
and
from
local
the state?
governments. This was from the federal government.
Federal government.
So there was a lot of local governments. Everyone was struggling. Local governments lost revenue. There were a lot of needs, and so the federal government passed this huge, basically stimulus package and provided. Albany County got almost $60 million.
Really? That's a lot.
The city of Albany got 80 or 90 million, something around that. So about half of our money went towards kind of filling the gaps in the deficits, basically from COVID. Spent to address these
Because the
issues.
sales tax went down.
Yeah, and I think sure there are other factors that cost money spent on health initiatives and outreach and that sort of thing. And then half that money we had a process for organizations to apply for funding to make an impact in the communities in the county. So we just announced our latest round, and 2 Jewish organizations were included: Maimonides Hebrew Day School and the JCC.
They got a major amount of money over here. Is it just for spending, or is it for specific projects in these two?
It's specific projects. I know the Maimonides School, I believe, was a outdoor learning area that would also have a Holocaust memorial garden.
Oh, very good.
And the JCC, not sure exactly what they're using those funds for, but they do have to apply for a specific program to use it for.
Not just to hear for the budget.
Not just the regular budget, but we want it to be something that they're actually expanding what they're doing, providing resource to people that they weren't providing in the past.
Well, that's great. I mean, I'm glad that you have the Jewish Institute. That's what I
Yeah.
say at the beginning. We have a nice Jewish boy over here like you, Sam, thinking about the Jewish community, so it just doesn't fall by the bayside,
Yeah, that's important to me, that we're supporting Jewish organizations. So.
Yeah. So what else is new with Albany County? We talked about the bad things to Albany County, the drugs and the homelessness. I mean, which are real issues. I'm not making fun of it. Again, it's important to deal with these issues. But Albany County, the businesses are going. Again, I really should have said at the beginning of the show. I mean, I'm sure you care about the whole Albany County. But on the other hand, your district is, tell us the dimensions of your district.
My district's mostly the south end of Albany, so South Pearl Street, where the Board of Elections is, the Mansion neighborhood, around the Governor's Mansion, also the downtown area, below Eagle Street to the river, and a little bit of Arbor Hill, really the Ten Brook Triangle area. So, yeah, I love representing this area, great people. One of the reasons you said we're talking about some of the bad things is because there are a lot of people struggling. There are a lot of issues in these areas, and I think it's important to recognize that if we're going to solve those problems.
You know, one of the things, well, I read about and I just wanted to hear about is just like a lot of stores go away from the inner city.
Yeah.
You know, there's not much money, and then they say people are ripping it off and stealing things, so it becomes not worth it. But then, I don't go there much, but I go downtown to Pearl Street. Where do you go shopping? They just...
Lodges.
Yeah.
I'll do a shout out to Lodges, the oldest store in Albany, which is a
Yeah.
great store. But I'll say, yeah, that's one of the problems. There aren't a lot of places to shop in Albany. A lot of pharmacies have left the city of Albany recently, and so
Really?
people don't have the access to just get their medications. It's a major problem.
Just because they're stealing things? I mean, why would they?
That's one of the things brought up, but actually, I think with the pharmacies, it's more complicated. My understanding is pharmacies in lower income areas, a lot of people are on Medicaid and Medicare, and they get less reimbursement rates. So it's somewhat probably some of the laws need to be changed to state level to federal level to make sure that the pharmacies are getting reimbursed for the prescription drugs at a rate where they're not losing money. Sometimes they're actually losing money when they fill people's drugs,
Really?
and so. Yeah, we need to make sure people have access to pharmacies. We got to address
Well, I know
this.
you're, like I'm saying, that you're an advocate because of your district, but I know you have a good Jewish heart. You care about poor people. But I always liked the idea that you went throughout about, free busing for people that are,
Yeah.
like a minimum wage. I mean, they're making minimum wage, they can't even make it. And then on top of that, they have to take a bus or transportation to their job. And then they lose another, it's like a half hour salary. I mean, someone who has a decent job, all right, it's
Yeah.
nice about that. And I never thought about it, but then once you raised it up, I thought it was really an important issue, why you're, in a way, taxing the poor people. I would feel that with cigarettes.
Yeah.
I just see your upper middle class don't really smoke cigarettes. I don't have statistics, it's just from my observation. But you see people in the inner city who smoking cigarettes. So when you're raising up the tax on cigarettes, who the most you're hurting is the people who can't even afford it anyway.
Yeah, I do have that concern with the cigarette tax. On the one hand, I think it has contributed to smoking rates decreasing a lot, but there is maybe a limit. You don't want to, because it is a tax on the poor, predominantly. Yeah,
Yeah.
so but the bus, yeah, I
You're
think,
right.
Free bus makes a lot of sense. A lot of cities throughout the country have done this, and it's been a big success. The state budget actually included money for certain routes in New York City to be free. But one of the reasons it makes sense in Albany, in the capital region, is because the CDTA only gets about 20% of its revenue from fares. So the rest of it is already subsidized by the government. So it puts money in the pockets of working people, but also hopefully will encourage more people to take the bus. And that reduces congestion, gets cars off the road, which reduces pedestrian, accidents with pedestrians, and reduces carbon emissions. So there's a lot of benefits, I think, for relatively small investment. I think you'll get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, surely the buses, they're taking 50 people. How many cars? I'm just throwing
Yeah.
out numbers. That's 25 cars or 30 cars off to
Yeah,
on
when
the
you see,
street.
sometimes online I'll see pictures of like 50 people driving in cars versus 50 people walking versus in a bus, and the amount of space 50 cars takes up.
Yeah.
If you take 50 cars off the road, put those people in a bus, you
Yeah.
reduce a lot of congestion on the road, and
Yeah.
everyone's happier then, right? It's
Do you think
win-win.
that's going to pass? I mean, you threw that out to the Albany County.
Well, yeah, I threw out the idea, and we're still talking about it. I think
Things
it's
take
something
time,
that we need to really push the state on, and I think there's an opportunity because the state's providing money to the New York City to do a pilot program here. I think we have an opportunity to do it locally. But another thing, I'm pushing for related to it is to start off. I think it'd be great to provide free bus to everyone on SNAP, food stamps.
And they would just show their card and get on the bus.
Yeah, and we're working with potentially with the state, with OTDA, the state agency, so that the EBT card could just be swiped on the bus. So
Okay, good.
that technology, I believe, is available. We'll have to work out some of the issues, and we
The software.
had a few conversations, but
Yeah, so that's really a great idea, I'm just saying that they're always talking about helping out the poor, but, and subsidizing, but, here's a direct action that's gonna help these poor people get on their feet. I mean, see the homelessness, again, they say sometimes it is like we were talking about before, the drugs, which, I don't like anyway. I mean, a person should, of course, in Jewish life and Hasidic life, a person should always be happy. They shouldn't need a stimulus, like an outside stimulus, to be happy. But, people do get depressed, and there are different reasons. And like you're saying, some people can't even afford the rent,
Yeah.
You get the single mothers, they say, with a child, and they need babysitting, and, that needs help, and on and on, that people have to go on with that.
And I think I'll say we need to provide better treatment for people who have drug addiction, but also cannabis was legalized, but I don't think that means it should be encouraged. We shouldn't say this. Alcohol is legal, but we shouldn't encourage its use. It's legal if people are adults and choose to do so, but I think we should recommend that people don't use it or use it responsibly.
Yeah. Well, it's everything in life. Again, going back to a Jewish idea, Torah idea, of course there is alcohol. People say l'chaim, or they make kiddush on wine, so you don't want to ban alcohol altogether. I remember my grandfather said that during the, like it was the Depression, whatever, that they weren't allowed alcohol. He made his own l'chaim or something like that, blueberry or something. I don't know how he did it. But again, I mean, we're not saying, but again, everything in moderation. If people have a few drinks, it's not a problem. Obviously, alcoholism is an issue for people, and just like the drug addictions. I mean, again, a little marijuana, I don't know if it'll hurt people, but when they always say it's a stepping stone to worse drugs, or then it becomes a problem. Is there any way of like having more of a job market for people? It seems like, I don't know, that we're talking about the illegal immigrants, and we could talk about that also. But again, I don't have statistics, and I'm the rabbi. I just see headlines, so that's why I want you to come and inform me. It's just like there's illegal immigrants, and then every store practically has, well, we need more jobs. So this is either, give them a opportunity instead of subsidizing them. Here's your green card or whatever have you, and get a job. Why? I put like 2 and 2 is 4. There's people who are there without jobs, and people are screaming for jobs.
Yeah, let's let them work. Yeah, and some people are trying to push the federal government. Some of our officials are pushing the federal government to allow them to work, and but a lot of them, they're asylum seekers, so they're not illegal immigrants, but they're going through an asylum process, and they may be accepted or they may be denied. But why don't we let them work? People are concerned that it costs so much to put them up in hotels and to get them housing. Yeah. We don't want them on the street, but if they're allowed to work, then they can sustain themselves.
Yeah, so that would be, that's my way of running the
I
government.
Maybe
I run for governor also. No, I'm just saying that, I feel either that way. These people are poor and they came. Again, I'm maybe a few criminals. I'm not saying everybody 100%, but people came to have a decent life, so to work. The few people I have met, and I don't even, it took 3 years of Spanish and I remember 10 words. But, I deal with, they have workers at the house for different things, a roof, this. And the employers say, oh, those are great workers.
Yeah.
The ones that are, I don't know how they got there. I didn't talk to them, like I say. Maybe they're there for 10, 20 years ago. But again, these people want to make a living in America. And and if they're here anyway, then put them to work. They want to work.
Yeah, I think that's why they came here. It's the land of opportunity, so they could work hard and make it. Their kids would be better off.
Yeah,
I don't think they want to stay in a hotel on Central Ave or wherever.
Yeah, people are looking for better, so we'll give them that opportunity, or at least send them home. Either way, it's costing. Again, that's a big cost to Albany County, or it's state, federal. Like you say, you put them up in hotels. Is Albany County footing the bill?
No, I think so. The state and New York City are. So the immigrants are coming to New York City. most of them are in New York City. Some of them have been sent upstate, but New York City was paying for the people being sent upstate. And I know the state budget had, I believe, $2 million, $2 billion for it. So
That's a lot to take care of these people.
yeah,
Well, it's a shame over here. You know, like you say, they could work and be a benefit to society and pay taxes or something instead of
yeah,
subsidizing a hotel for them.
yeah. I don't know what the solution. It's complicated. What do we do at the local level? I think a lot of these issues are the federal government's inaction over the years when it comes to immigration. So now we're kind of dealt to deal with it at the local level, and our options are more limited. So it's difficult.
Yeah, I know. Well, it becomes a big issue on the federal level also. I mean, it's one of the touch issues. We should let in the immigrants, don't let in the immigrants.
Yeah.
So, like I always say, stay tuned. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, again, you know, it's, we want to find a solution. It's a humanitarian issue. You know,
Yeah.
people want to, you know, work. So let's talk about other issues over here. What's the other big issues in Albany County? Talk about the budget. It's always on budget, or
The Albany County budget.
yeah.
Yes, we start our budget process. We're getting ready to start it. The budget, our fiscal year is the calendar year, so we usually pass our budget in December. I think in October, the county executive will release his budget, and then we'll go through the process.
Do they change it much? Is there much haggling, or it's pretty
There-
smooth over
we-
here? I mean, you've
We
been
get-
how many
we-
years?
Yeah, we have a
been in
good
Albany
relationship
County?
with the county exec. We usually make a few changes, though. You know, we bring in all the department heads, we ask the questions, but there's always some changes we make. You know, that's really how it should be.
How many
That's
years
how we-
have you been in the Albany
Um,
County?
It's been more than 8 years, I think.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, 8.5 years, I
Yeah,
guess. now.
really?
Yeah. It goes by quick.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Life. That's why I could tell you. You know, I mean, I tell everybody I'm 29, of course, but in any case, you know, that's why I almost tell the youth. You know, you think you have all your whole life, and
Yeah.
time flies. You know, before you know it, you look around and you're an older person. So take the opportunities. That's important for.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of parks in Albany County. Are they being like Washington Park? That wouldn't be part of your district.
That isn't, but
Yeah.
Lincoln Park is, and
All right.
that's a city park. But the pool there is being renovated.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's-
going to ask. It
it's-
was a big issue, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's tough because it's so hot this summer, and people in the community don't have a pool to cool off in.
It's still not being reused, or
It's
something?
still, next year it's gonna
Oh,
open.
really? Why? What took so long? I just know the Albany Jewish Community Center. We were talking about that. It took a lot of money to, you know, a few pipes are broken, but it's
Yeah.
underneath. You know, it's a lot of money even to sustain a pool.
It's expensive. Yeah, I think it's over $10 million. I know, for the
Really?
Lincoln Park one, but that's a huge pool. You
Yeah,
know,
well, I know.
and that the style of it with the zero entry. So they're keeping some of that, and they're also going to add just a regular type of pool.
All right.
So it's they got a lot of community input. I think people originally were worried and frustrated, and then everyone came to something they could get behind.
And the Albany County subsidizing that, or the city of Albany?
The city of Albany, I think there's some private donations too, and I think the state's providing some money too. The governor has a program to funding for renovate swimming pools in underserved areas.
Really good, because I know the Albany County, we were talking about the Albany Jewish Community Center helped out. Their indoor
Yeah.
pool, the pipes broke or something broke, and they needed a lot of money
Yeah,
to get it back to snuff. Like, I don't know, people always say even in their backyards, when things break, pools cost a lot of money.
yeah,
You know, what can you do over there? But it's important because these inner city kids, you know, you want to get them some recreation. You
Yeah.
know, listen, if you have kids and teenagers, they have nothing to do, then maybe they'll find some trouble. But a basketball game or a swimming pool and get their energies out that way in
yeah.
a good way.
And they'll cool off, gives people a way to cool off. It's an opportunity for kids to learn how to swim.
They give lessons there too. I never was. And I mean, I've seen the Lincoln Pool.
Well,
now
yeah,
nothing's happening. So
I'm not sure exactly what types of lessons they give, but without a pool, if there's no
Yeah,
pool,
yeah.
you don't have the opportunity ever to learn how to
Yeah,
swim. But I
yeah.
believe, yes, I think they have lessons at the pool.
yeah, that's good. Well, kids, you know, like I say, use their energy for a positive thing. You know, get their energy out, and swimming, and it's an important idea. Well, we have just only a few minutes left of our shows. Anything you want to bring out that maybe for Albany County or even that you see in the state of New York?
Just, I'll say, I'm hopeful for the future of the city of Albany, for Albany County. There are a lot of issues, and a lot of these things we're dealing with statewide, with homelessness, housing issues, gun violence. But we're working together, trying to solve these problems. I'm going to keep advocating to address them, and exciting projects in Albany, potentially like reimagining 787, reconnecting the city to the waterfront. I think there's a lot of opportunity for this.
It's going to cost a lot of money.
It will, but the thing is, to renovate 787 will cost a lot of money over the next 20, 30 years, probably billions of dollars. So we have to.
Why is falling apart?
It's going to need a lot of maintenance. It's probably 50, 60 years old by now. So we have to calculate that into it, and then all of the benefit to people in the city of Albany and in the whole region to access that waterfront, and even the potential tax revenue the city could bring in, the economic benefits. So once you calculate everything, we can see, is it worth it? And of course, would require probably state and federal money. So there's a lot of questions, but
I just look at that big 70s, moving that around over here,
Yeah, it's big, but I grew up in the Boston area. They did the big dig.
Yeah.
It really improved the city, even with all the issues during the building process. But in Albany, I think oftentimes we think we can't do big things, and we kind of say, oh, that's not going to happen. We discourage it. But I think we need to think big and have a vision and believe we can do it and try to make it happen.
All right, excellent. Well, if you have a bigger mind over here, I know, than mine over there. I did a big thing like moving that around, taking so much money up. So again, you mentioned it, and we didn't mention about the crime. I saw that there's so much violence happening.
Yeah.
People are dying in Albany. I don't know what they're supposed to do, the elected officials to do. You have any ideas? I mean, any remedies to?
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad. The district I represent, seeing one of the areas most impacted, the south end of Albany, Arbor Hill. And I think there's multiple approaches. There's the long term and the short term. Long term, we need to make sure kids are getting a good education. We need to make sure that we're investing in these communities, that people have proper housing, safe, quality, affordable housing, health care, recreational opportunities for kids, so they feel supported. In the short term, policing is, of course, a piece of that as well. We need to make sure that the police are addressing these issues, taking guns off the street. And I would say also, I want a real commitment to community policing in Albany, which the city used to win national awards for.
Really?
Having officers walking around the beat, building relationships with community members. I think that's important to build that trust between the community and police, and it'll make our community safer.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, I actually go into prisons, and so I have a feeling for them. I want to rehabilitate them and sit there in prison. The other hand, sometimes you read about something, well, they have 10 misdemeanors and the judge lets them off. Well, what do you think he's going to do for the 11th time?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's, if the person's a bad apple, they have to be taught a lesson.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta look at that too. And sometimes, maybe if it's a young person, they can, I think they can be rehabilitated and you can help them, but might need to take them, away from the community a bit, have them in the right type of program. But yeah, they're
right.
We can't get away. Obviously, there's consequences for committing crimes, and as there should be. But we don't want it just to be consequence. We want to also try to rehabilitate people.
Well, that's a very Jewish idea. I mean, obviously, people read one of the big questions. Oh, the Old Testament, there's kill them this and execute them there. They're so bloodthirsty. Let's take it easy. That the punishments are not. They're just supposed to rehabilitate people, to make them better if they get them hit. But the Rebbe was against prisons. You should know.
Really?
It's a whole subject.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that on the next one. Yeah.
All right, we're out of time, but there's always another time. But we always give you a blessing. You're doing good work. That's not an issue, but even better for the community and raise up in your personal standards to be bigger and better issues over here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rabbi.